Hello everybody, it's Julia here from the Highly Sensitive Tarot, and I'm back today to show you another deck. This will just be a quick walkthrough of this deck. I think it's likely that you will see this deck again in the future when I've worked with it a little bit. I plan to use this deck with my in-between tarot in November. So, but anyway, this was a little bit of an impulse buy actually. It's called the Blind Spot Oracle Cards, and it's a 78 card deck and guidebook by Teal Swan. Now, I don't know whether any of you are aware of who Teal Swan is. I know she has a YouTube channel. I have watched some of her videos, and she's a powerful woman. You know, it says here she's a personal transformation revolutionary who was born highly intuitive. She's a renowned author, speaker, and modern spiritual leader. She travels the world teaching about self-awareness and inspiring people towards authenticity. And I think that's what I've enjoyed about her, because I've been on a bit of a journey towards some authenticity over the last few years. You know, when I decided that I needed to stop masking and stop trying to be somebody that I'm not, and just have some radical self-acceptance of actually who I am. You know, there was a lot of shadow work went on at that time, and I came across her work at that time. As I said, she's a very powerful woman. A lot of the things that she talks about I really get and I really agree with. She's very strong on self-empowerment, freedom of speech, authenticity, shadow work, personal transformation, that sort of wholeness, becoming whole. But she can be quite blunt. She's not somebody to listen to if you don't like hard truths, I suppose. You know, she doesn't pull any punches. She's got a kind of masculine energy to her, I feel, which kind of suits her, you know. But yeah, she wouldn't be a person to listen to, I think, if you weren't able to cope with really doing the work, you know, really looking at yourself, all the painful, crappy, shitty things about yourself that normally you don't want to look at. So anyway, it says here, the Blind Spot Oracle cards have a simple but incredibly effective purpose: to reveal what you're not aware of relative to the question you're asking. And our blind spots may hide motives, fears, desires, needs, truths, reasons, habits, and patterns. The list goes on. This oracle will make you aware of them. And if you are aware of them, you can take action. And you know, that's very much what she stands for, is if you're aware of things, you can change things. And you can't always change everything, but I think sometimes even if you can change things just a little for yourself, that can bring quite a lot of positive outcomes for your life. So anyway, as I said, this was a bit of an impulse buy. On the back of the deck, it's not a cheap deck. I mean, it's should have been £30 in the UK and $44 in the US. It's by Watkins Publishing, who I've never heard of before. Watkins. I actually got this deck for £16. Amazon are selling it for £16 at the moment, and I was just window shopping and thought, well, you know, I like shadow work very much, and I'm not afraid of, you know, difficult shadow work either, so I've always kind of welcomed it. So you get this really nice book, and then you get these 78 cards, and the cards in themselves, they're nice cards. I mean, they've got a beautiful back look. They're all about sigils. So none of these cards have got anything on them that you could you know, there's no pretty pictures. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time showing you the cards. As I said, there's 78 of them. But they are sigils, all of them. And they're sigils that Teal that she drew herself while in a trance. And they all have some kind of personal meaning for her. And I've looked through this deck. I haven't worked with it yet at all because it literally came yesterday morning. I've only just opened it. So I've looked through this deck, and actually the first few cards I looked at, I tried to intuit something from the sigil. You know, what did it make me think? And I was actually, on 2 or 3 of the cards, I was actually fairly accurate to the themes in the book. Not completely, but there are things to intuit from these cards, I think. Like I'd seen with this card, number 1, to me it just looked like smiling. There's 2 smiles here, smiling faces. But I think the actual real interpretation of this card is about fear and transcending fear. So this card here, I looked at this card, and this to me is just the self. It's me. Do you know what I mean? It's this circle here with the big dot in the middle. It's like a person. It's like the self. If there was to be an archetype for this sigil, it would be the self. And I think that I was fairly accurate there with that also. So like I said, there's not really a great deal of point in me showing you each and every one of these cards because they are all sigils. There's 78 of them, and I think there are things to be intuited from the actual sigils themselves, but I think this is very much a deck that needs the book, that you need to work with the book, and that is the idea of this deck. So this was first published in 2020, so it's been around a little while, and actually I've not seen anybody work with this deck. I don't think I've even seen anybody review this deck, actually. You'll have to let me know if you're aware of Teal Swan or of any of, because I think she's done another deck. There is another one, and she's maybe written a couple of books. I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't say here, does it? So in this book, it is all writing. There are no pictures in this book. There's no pictures of the sigils with the individual cards, which I would have liked, to be honest. It would be nice to have card 15 with a picture of the sigil. But there's so much writing in here, perhaps they didn't feel they had room for all the pictures. I don't know. I drew a card last night in bed. I was thinking about a problem that I have at the moment, something that's causing me some issues, and I was thinking about that, and I drew a card and it really did resonate. I was like, oh God, really? That again? That one again? Oh. So there are some spreads in here as well. As you can see, the responsibility spread, the conflict spread, the time spread. And the applications, she says here, for using this oracle cards are to see what you don't see about a person in your life, your job, your relationship, your true desires, your true needs, your true motives, somebody else's motives, an addiction, a habit, your character, your future, your past, your present, your finances, your purpose, your reasons for doing something, somebody else's reasons for doing something, a decision you're facing, the collective unconscious, potential outcomes, things to look out for and be aware of, what is preventing a goal from manifesting, why you're stuck. So it's shadow work, it's serious shadow work. So I think what I shall do is I will just pull a card randomly from here. Let me just pull a card out. I think I'll go for that one. So near the end of the deck, this one. I don't know whether the cards sort of follow a theme of any kind, in that the shadow aspects get more difficult or less. I don't really know. I think they're just all sorts of different things. I mean, as we look through, we've got belief, automaton, bias, scarcity, looking to the outside, the faulty compass, the filter, expectations, others see it but you don't, assumptions. This one, suppression, has got a lot of questions you can ask yourself. Duplicity, reactivity, wishing and willing harm, negative reinforcements, desperation, running away from emotion, shame, judgment. So you can see this is not a cheery deck. This is a hard deck. This is a deck that will really that, you know, could set the cat among the pigeons, could be really, it could be difficult. So where are we? So I picked transcendental escapism, which is this sigil here. Let's put that there. So if you've drawn this sigil, what is preventing your progression is that you are using things of a spiritual nature or your higher intellect in order to escape and avoid the temporal. See, I see my shadows in everything that I read, literally everything. What is it? Views of spirit. You have lost sight of the bigger picture, which includes both physical and non-physical. You are spirit, but you are also body. You cannot die, but you will also most certainly die. To reject the physical and things related to the physical, you reject, deny, and disown part of yourself. In this situation, you are using spiritual to negate the physical, and you are suffering and will suffer because of it. I mean, just even that paragraph, it's just like, oh my God. And see, some of that resonates for me because I've got very chronic health problems. I can most definitely escape out of my body and into my intellect and into my intuition and into other things to not feel sometimes the misery of my physical body. So I totally get that. I think lots of people would get that. But as I said, this is not a deck that to be taken lightly. You know, I think if you pulled one card a month and really, you know, focused on that energy and really looked at where that comes from in you, I think that would be enough. This is not, you couldn't pull one of these every day or even every week, I don't think. If you've drawn this sigil, you're in resistance to the physical and temporal, or potentially an aspect of it. The temporal world is a world of the purely physical. It is particles, body, colour, shape, soma, physical health, the physical aspect of sex, money, house, place, things, and the physical aspect of food. Plants, people, pets, possessions, and so on. It is the realm of the material. If you just read these words and felt yourself reject them, then you just saw your resistance. So there we go. If you were listening to any of that and you had an immediate reaction to those words, it's likely that there is some resistance within you and something to think about. So she goes on quite a lot. I mean, there's 3 good pages on this. Let's just read the last little paragraph. This sigil has come to remind you that you are using spiritual awareness or higher intellect as a form of resistance, escapism, and denial, and it is highly likely that the answer you seek for improvement lies squarely in the physical and in embracing the physical. So there we go. For all you lovers of shadow work, I mean, this hits, you know, many spots for me. I like spirituality, shadow work, self-improvement. I'm quite interested in sigils. They're things that I've used myself in the past. There was something in here about sigils. Yeah, the artwork on these cards was originally painted by hand directly onto paper by Teal, Swan, and painted while deep in trance states. Each card acts as a birth for a specific sigil. A sigil is an inscribed or painted symbol or seal. But the difference between a symbol and a sigil is that unlike a symbol, a sigil is not representing anything. Instead, the sigil itself is like a body for a specific essence, entity, or spirit. And this is why a sigil is considered to have magical powers. So there we go. I hope you enjoyed that. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. If you've got this deck, or you're aware of this deck, or you are aware of Teal, Swan, if you've used this deck particularly, I'd love to hear from you. But please do say hello. I love for people to say hello. And I shall see you all again soon. Thank you.